Your need for speed is slowing you down. Instead of charging towards success, you drift further away. And as you drift further away, your frustration grows. This growing frustration leads to even shorter term decision making. Shorter term decisions are often poorer in quality, and they prioritize speed over accuracy. And this leads to the repetition of the cycle that got you here in the first place. Once you're in that cycle and once it begins, it's easy to get stuck. And once stuck, it's difficult to escape. There's only one way out. Do the opposite of everyone else. The conundrum that we're discussing today is one that I know all too well. From over a decade of experience helping people achieve their health and fitness goals, as well as my own pursuits in starting, building, and growing different businesses, in the same way that people look for quick fixes with weight loss, only to realize the downside of this approach, I too have tried to shortcut my way to success at times before realizing the irony that I was becoming no different than those seeking those weight loss shortcuts. We all do it. It's default behavior in today's society. We want to grow a following fast. We want to grow a business by tomorrow. We want a lifetime of success in the next 6 months. We believe we can have it all, and that might be true, but that still isn't enough. Because as Freddie Mercury famously once sang, I want it all, I want it all, I want it all, and I want it now. With speed as our primary driver, we do too many things at once. And when this happens, we miss important lessons that occur in each of those areas. And these lessons are what would usually shape our decisions about how to move forwards. But without those lessons, we can't learn anything or gain any better knowledge of what it takes to actually succeed. We miss the important feedback because the shortcut didn't allow for the learning to ever take place. So let's use weight loss as a simple analogy here to paint this picture. A person who doesn't track their food might lose some weight, but they never learn how many calories they're eating to achieve that result. And inevitably, when the weight loss stalls, they feel stuck, but they haven't gained any new knowledge from their journey so far as to how to go about fixing this problem. Have they accidentally eaten too much food? Do they need to drop their calories lower? Or is this just a plateau that they might need to break through? They can't know the answers because no learning ever took place as they undertook this journey. They essentially tried to shortcut it by just following a system that someone else built or a meal plan that someone gave them that had worked for them. They never actually broke down the steps. They never looked at what it was going to take to see this journey all the way through to completion. And the same rules apply across many areas of life. And this is why I believe that there is only one way to truly shortcut your way to success. You've got to do what's needed to acquire the specific skills and knowledge that you require in order to get to your outcomes quicker. Okay? I'm going to repeat that again. You need to do what's needed to acquire the skills and knowledge to get to your desired outcomes quicker. That's the only true shortcut that exists. Most shortcuts that are out there skip the knowledge acquisition part. They skip the part where you gain some knowledge. They skip those steps. So what I'm asking you to do instead is make knowledge acquisition your shortcut. Use that as the shortcut instead. Because if the downside of shortcuts is the fact that we miss the knowledge acquisition, then the way to turn that around is to make the knowledge acquisition the shortcut in the first place. Okay? The weight loss quick fixes that people follow don't teach you how weight loss occurs. The lead generation hacks and tactics that you might follow don't teach you why they're effective. The viral blueprint that everyone wants to follow, doesn't explain why that approach grabs people's attention. So when any of these things stop working, you as the user of that approach don't know what to do next. You don't know where to turn. You don't know how to make a decision about why that stopped working, why it worked in the first place, and what might work in the future. Which means that inevitably you're just going to go for the next shortcut and the next quick fix and the next blueprint and the next hack and the next tactic. So instead of skipping the knowledge to create a shortcut, turn knowledge into your shortcut instead. So let's take a look at some practical approaches for using knowledge as a shortcut. And just to make sure that I don't do you a disservice here, I want to be clear about the terminology that I'm using, just so that we don't create any confusion. I'm talking about knowledge and knowledge acquisition as being the shortcuts here. But knowledge is a word that could easily be replaced by skills, insight, experience, tools, whatever that missing piece might be that you need to get you to where you want to be. Because sometimes, even if you know what to do, even if you have the knowledge, you're still unable to make progress. And it might be because it's one of the other elements that are missing. But to me, they all fall under a similar category that I'm referring to as knowledge here. Okay. So whenever I use knowledge, you could quite easily swap that out for something else. And just to reiterate here, the real reason that quick fixes fail is because they lack large portions of the learning process that allow you to acquire knowledge about how to get results in any given area. It's the lack of acquired knowledge that slows you down in the long term. So to speed things up, you need to acquire that knowledge as early as you can. Because if you don't, you find yourself stuck in the cycle that we described right at the beginning of this video, and you're going to repeat that over and over again. You're going to always be starting again, always trying to find the new thing. You do something that works and then it doesn't, and you've got to find the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And by always starting again, you never get any compounding effect of all the efforts you've made previous. You're not building on top of what you've already done. You're not stacking skills together. You're not stacking experience and knowledge and insights. You're always starting from ground zero. Okay. So we want to get very practical here about how to apply knowledge and use this as a shortcut. And there are two key ways that I believe that you can do this. Number one is to undertake the challenge of going after a goal without any shortcuts and learn the lessons along the way, and then use those lessons to improve results. So we could argue that this is sort of the longer way to do things. This is the longer route, okay, is to decide on your goal, get started, first thing, like get going, and then use the knowledge that you acquire along the way to actually make better decisions and actively avoid any sort of shortcuts or hacks, okay? So this means that if you wanted to build an audience, you get very, very practical about how you're going to do that. You're not necessarily going to try and do some viral trend just for the sake of it, because in the long term, that's not going to work for what you're trying to do. Instead, you're going to take a more practical, pragmatic approach based on what it is that you're trying to build. It might be that you don't need millions of followers. You actually need a small group of the right kind of people watching your content that are willing to buy the types of things that you've got to offer. Yeah. So number one is to pursue a goal and be very mindful of not using any sort of typical shortcuts that might exist. The second way is to choose to go after a goal, but then find a reputable source of information about how to achieve that goal in a way that makes sense to you. So this could be people, this could be courses, videos, podcasts, books, blogs, AI chatbots, anything, yeah? And this second option is my preferred method. And what I tend to do is, I tend to do my best to only consume enough free information here so that I've gathered enough information about where to quickly turn to for paid solutions. I think that people that go down this second route can often get stuck in a cycle of just acquiring more knowledge, watching more videos, listening to more podcasts, reading more blogs, buying more books. And even if they are spending small amounts of money there, like buying a book, they're essentially just always stuck at this free end of the spectrum where they're just watching stuff, listening to stuff, never really applying anything. Whereas my approach is to use the free content to actually make decisions about where I'm going to spend some money. I'm not looking for the free resource to solve my problems. I'm using the free resources to figure out who's legit. And then once I know who the legit people are, I'm looking at their paid services as being the thing that will act as my shortcut. That's going to be the thing that's going to help me solve my problem. And it might not solve the problem in its entirety. It might give me an idea or a framework from which I can solve my problem. Their exact approach might not be the type of thing that's perfect for me, but some elements of it might make a lot of sense. Again, I said slightly earlier on that we need to seek people that can help us achieve our goals in a way that makes sense to us, not necessarily just by copying exactly what they did. We want to follow people that can give us proper strategies, proper frameworks, and maybe even some sort of central philosophy to follow that we can then buy into. And people are going to want to do the same with you, by the way. If you are someone that shares knowledge, that shares services, that shares information, people are going to want to be able to do that with you as well if you're going to try and convince them to buy. Just a quick side note on free content. Free content is great. I produce lots of free content on a weekly basis, and I happily share it with people that want to use it and want to consume it. And I myself also consume my own fair share of free content across the week as well. But here's the thing. In the same way that most people don't get results if you offer them free PT sessions, most business owners don't make huge inroads in their business by following free business advice. It's not personal to them. It might lack a little bit of specificness to what it is that they're looking to solve. And there's very little nuance at times because it's designed to be consumed by a broader audience. And most importantly, the consumer has got no skin in the game. They might watch something for a few seconds or maybe even a few minutes, but ultimately they can just scroll to the next thing or watch the next video and carry on with their life. So my advice is to use free content purely as a filter through which you decide where to go and spend your money on solving your problems. That's how I use it as a filter. The free content itself, even if it's amazing, probably won't get you all the way to your goal, but it can act as a gateway to the answers that you're looking for. Some free content might help you take some initial steps. It might help you overcome an initial hurdle. It might get you through something that you needed a bit of a tutorial for. But in regard to your bigger goals, the free content is there to act as a guide as to who to follow and who to invest in if you want to go down the route of getting deeper and actually solving your problems and achieving those larger goals that exist. Okay, so let's tie things up with a quick summary of what we've covered here in this short lesson. Shortcuts slow you down because you don't get the required knowledge along the way. This is the trap that everyone is falling into. This is the mistake that everyone is making. So that's number one. Shortcuts slow you down because you don't gain the required knowledge along the way. The lack of real knowledge and insight leaves you stuck. You don't know what to do next in order to make any real progress. And then that leads us on to the third thing, which is this means that the only shortcuts worth taking are the ones where you get direct access to the knowledge and the insights needed to achieve the goals that you want to go after. Any other kind of shortcut just doesn't make sense. And then lastly, I believe the best shortcuts are the ones you pay for. They're the only ones you take seriously. And I term these ethical shortcuts. And when you've acquired these ethical shortcuts, you can make amazing progress. The speed that you gain with this approach is measured over the long term. It's not about getting results tomorrow. Rather, it's about putting an end to that cycle of having to start over again, and again. It's about ending that cycle forever and actually moving in the direction you're trying to travel. Best way to do that is through these ethical shortcuts that we've talked about here today. Let me know if you've come across any shortcuts that you find work really well for achieving success that I haven't discussed in this video. You can pop those down below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this short discussion today and want to see more of this type of stuff, then please make sure that you hit subscribe so that you'll get notified when I release my next video. I'm Matt Robinson, and until next time, take care of yourself. I'll catch you again soon.